So we have another incompetent African politician. Well, he's Arab, the president of Tunisia. I know this topic sounds confusing because Tunisia is one of such countries that is on the continent of Africa. So technically, they are Africans, but phenotypically, I'm talking about their biological makeup, they are Arabs. So the Tunisian president came out recently and claimed that all the problems in Tunisia are the fault of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa.
يتخبطوا وثم الحملات المسعورة متاع الناس المأجورين وعملاء للخارج ولجهات المشبوهة لضرب الدولة التونسية يتحدثوا اليوم عن القضايا المتعلقة بالأفاق. نحن آثرنا على أنفسنا وقت الكوفيد نوزعوا الأدوية ونوزعوا على الأفاق، ونحن نرتز بانتمائنا الأفريقي، ولكن هم بطبيعة الحال تأويلهم اليوم هم يحب يغيروا التركيبة الديموغرافية لتونس وترتيب وخذوا فلوس كما اللي خذوا فلوس في عديد القطاعات الأخرى لضرب الدولة التونسية ولضرب الشعب التونسي.
Right after making those claims, a crackdown began in Tunisia, in many parts of the country, where the officials started going after African migrants in their neighborhoods. There were a few documented violent attacks on African families. You know, these people are migrants, okay? Like, people migrate from all parts of the world to different parts of the world for different reasons. Even though it's common for Africans headed to Europe by land to pass through countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, you know, risking everything because they're trying to get to Europe. That's another conversation for another day. But due to the crackdown on the migrants, a lot of people have had very difficult lives. It's not the first time that Africans will be treated this way. We know that for the most part, Africans usually get the short end of the stick. During the time of COVID-19, I remember countries like China. China was notorious blaming African people for bringing COVID into China, which is absolutely ridiculous because the virus began in Wuhan, China. And then we had the same situation in Saudi Arabia with the government blaming Africans for spreading COVID-19, and they decided to deport a mass deportation program where Africans were lumped into cargo airplanes, not passenger airplanes. They were lumped into cargo airplanes like goods, like animals, and transported back to Kenya, Uganda, and many East African countries. And we also had similar situations in Lebanon, in many different parts of the world, even in Africa. Even in Africa, we get treated that way too sometimes by our own people. And of course, I'm not going to forget the almighty United States of America. It's like the epicenter of racism, where Black Americans are treated like shit for the most part. Now, the main reasons why we've always been the whipping board of the world is because somehow we are one of the most vulnerable people, because it's us that you find migrating to weird places where we are not even wanted. And the main reason why a lot of us migrate is for economic reasons and political instability. So it boils down to the politics of our countries. If our politicians were reasonable human beings that did not only care about money and were not extremely greedy, by now the rate at which Africans migrate going through all these weird countries should have drastically reduced. But that's not the case. We have a case where majority of our citizens in different countries live below poverty. They are victims of violence, crime, political instability, and for that reason they decide to leave. Meanwhile, the politicians are consistently billionaires, living in opulence, and have access to everything else that we don't have access to. Now, to the part of Kais Saied, whatever his name is, the president. It's one of those tactics that is used by incompetent, useless, good for nothing politicians to distract their people that they are responsible for from the main issues. In this case, he has decided to use Africans as the whipping board so that the Tunisian people will be upset at Africans and blame all their economic problems at African migrants. We also need to keep in mind that this is a little country, 12.5 million people. As the president of that small country that is enriched with intelligent people, natural resources, you have no excuse not to be able to make the best out of the situation. You have no excuse. If what you're doing is to blame everybody else for your incompetence, it shows that you are a fraud. And it's unfortunate that no matter how fraudulent a politician is, he will still have millions of supporters. That's just how humanity works. So people need to realize the reason why the president of Tunisia decided to use Africans as the whipping board once again is because we Africans are easy targets. Number one. Number two, he's trying to implement divide and conquer and a distraction from the real issues that makes him an incompetent president of the country. And that's all this is. Other than that, I salute the great people of Tunisia, the good Tunisians that have stood up and engaged in different types of protests against this good for nothing. I won't even call him racist. Of course, he's racist, but he's a weak racist. We can't even take him that serious. I mean, if you're in Tunisia as an African migrant, you have to take it seriously. But the rest of the world, we can't take that serious because you, the president, you're useless. We see the game you're playing. It's the same game that our politicians in sub-Saharan Africa play. They divide us based on ethnic groups, based on religious differences, so that we can be distracted. That's all this is. Do not fall for the okie dokie. The Tunisian president is a piece of shit. Okay, let it go. The good people of Tunisia standing up against this clown. Salute to you guys.